You wished upon a star.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream. Disneyland.
Just go to Action Park. There's no other park like it.
Six Flags Great Adventure. It's not a world away.
Paramount's Kings Island.
We will officially open Universal Studios Florida.
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner.
Now, here is your host.
Hi, my name is Kevin Perger, and welcome back to the Defunctland Podcast. Today I'm joined by two very special guests, Mitchel and Marc Musso. How are you two doing today?
We're good.
Doing pretty good.
I can't speak for you. Yeah, how are you?
I mean, I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. Kevin, how are you doing, though? That's what's important.
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. More than anything, I'm really excited for our discussion today. I guess for the people that don't know who you are, Mitchell.
Yeah, they better know. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
No, you go for it. I like it. I'm enjoying you introducing me. It doesn't make me look like such an ass. Or...
Okay, I'll try to take a shot at it. I've been actually thinking what would be the best way to introduce you, and I think this is it. So in the early 90s, we have this time in Disney history called the Disney Renaissance, where all of these huge animated classics are being released. Well, in the early 2000s, there was a similar time, but for Disney Channel, where there was all of these shows that were released, but it wasn't just for, little kids. It was for pretty much the whole family. You have these really big hit family shows that now have spawned Hollywood stars. So these include, we have Zack and Cody, Even Stevens, Lizzie McGuire, and, of course, Hannah Montana, which is arguably the most popular out of all of them. And the show, starring Miley Cyrus, her best guy friend on the show was a character named Oliver Oaken, played by Mitchel Musso. So that is you. And this was not actually your first production on Disney. This you actually did a Disney Channel movie before this, right? Called Life is Rough.
Yeah. That's weird to think about. That was the first one.
I guess, yeah, because that was a one-off thing with, no plans for you to do anything afterwards, really.
Yeah, it wasn't planned. I'm just so talented. They needed me for something else. And at first I thought you were going to say, most of my audience, is the Renaissance with, older animation Disney. We don't keep up with the shit that's out there now, like the Hannah Montanas. That's where I thought you were going with it. So I was like, all right.
No. It's funny, actually. When I found out that I had the potential of interviewing you, I would tell people, I'm interviewing Mitchel Musso from Hannah Montana, and they immediately knew who you were. They knew what that was, because this show was so big, and all these Disney Channel shows were so big that even people of varying age ranges knew of them. Now, ask someone what's on Disney Channel today. I don't know. I don't think they could tell you.
I got this, Kevin. I got this. You got the hit classic Dog with a Blog.
Is that still on?
I have no idea. And you have the hit classic The Girl Meets World one.
Okay.
I also
okay, but however,
those are literally the only two I can name.
However, Phineas and Ferb's on. I'm on a show, Phineas and Ferb, which is animated, and that's on the channel.
Hey,
and it's a pretty good show. It's probably one of my favorite things to shoot. And we just finished last year the sixth season, so the last episode, and we started a new show called Milo Murphy's Law, which is coming or has been seen on Disney Channel. It's not something that is live. It's also animation. It's a great show. It stars Weird Al Yankovic as Milo. It's the same creators and writers of Phineas and Ferb. And I was just shooting an episode yesterday, which I just flew in, and now I'm on this podcast. But those two shows are great shows. Anything else, I couldn't even name it, and I'm on the channel, and I don't even know what else is out there. My prime was Even Stevens. That was my thing, or Kim Possible,
right?
Lizzie McGuire, and the movie. Both
the McGuire movie,
both of those,
and the Even Stevens movie,
and the Even Stevens movie.
Was the Even Stevens movie in theaters though? Well, I know Lizzie McGuire was.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
because Holes was in theaters, and that's what matters.
See, you know what? The thing is that now you can't make a movie like Holes because Holes isn't going to make $1 billion. So Disney's not going to make holes.
What do you mean, Mark? The audiences don't have an attention span to watch a movie about holes?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I think they just have a different like concept in mind when they say, "Hey, this movie's called Holes." Are you gonna go see the new movie Holes?
Yeah,
I think they'd have
go,
problems with that.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what?
gonna have to move that over to Touchstone Pictures. That can't go under the Disney label.
Good job, Disney. You did it. You finally did it.
I think that they do a bunch of good stuff, you know, and it's true, you know. For some reason, it's just really hit or miss, you know, lately, I guess, and they're just on a different thing, you know. But growing up, I couldn't remember a day that I wasn't watching something on Disney, and this was, you know, pre-Hannah. This was way before.
Oh yeah.
Growing up in California, watching Raven. And then I'm stuck on the Life is Rough set, and to me, Kyle Massey is like Brad Pitt, you know? And I'm playing his best friend or vice versa. And that was really cool at the time.
Well, yeah, because we grew up without cable. So, like, whenever we didn't really have cable early on. So whenever we'd go, like, on vacations to Florida or something, our parents would get really mad at us because all we wanted to do was stay in the hotel room and watch Disney Channel and Cartoon Network and stuff. Because we were like, what are these shows?
It was a great era. It was my favorite time for television, especially, you know, the kids' television.
Yeah, like I said, it's the Disney Channel renaissance. All of these live action hits, just hit after hit after hit. While Nickelodeon at that time, they were having a lot of hits in animation. Now it's almost flipped, or at least Disney's killing it in animation, because Gravity Falls and Phineas and Ferb are two of the biggest animated series in a long time. Those have huge fan bases, and they're both on Disney Channel.
Yeah, which is wild to think that Phineas has done more on a larger scale than SpongeBob. And that blows my mind, because that was also when I was watching the Ravens and stuff. It was SpongeBob. I watched that every single day. Everybody knew what that was, you know? Everybody knew who that was. And they still do, you know, nowadays. That's like I was on Twitter the other day, and that's still going. You know, the Patrick Star memes.
Oh, yeah.
The SpongeBob memes, the Krusty Krab memes, the Chum Bucket memes. They're still a phenomenon.
SpongeBob
and yet,
is a meme circus now, which is like in a good way.
Massive, though. Don't want to steer the audience to SpongeBob, Mark. Remember.
Oh yeah, we don't want to give SpongeBob any promotion. That's
This
right.
is a Musso Productions only podcast.
That's right. That is right.
Completely.
Well, before we get into today's main discussion, Mark, we should probably mention that you have been in multiple films, and you've starred alongside Mitchell in some of these.
That is true. I was going to say when we were younger, but we did do a movie together in 2015, so I guess pretty recently as well. But we did I think it was the first it was the first movie that either of us did, wasn't it?
Which one?
Secondhand Lions?
Yes.
Yeah, so Secondhand Lions was the first movie that either one of us did, and we played brothers. Very poetic, but we played brothers in the movie, which is a good movie with Robert Duvall and Michael Caine, and it's about, and Haley Joel Osment, of course, and it's about a lion or something. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember liking it a lot.
Yeah. So, but I had met Emily because her brother Haley Joel Osment was the star. So I had met Emily back then. And I think I was probably 9 or 9, 10 maybe.
And Jennifer Stone.
And Jennifer Stone, that's right, who was on Wizards of Waverly. It's kind of strange how these small little circles came about. And then, I mean, I'm not kidding, half of the kids, maybe more on Disney, are from Texas.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know?
Absolutely. Selena is...
And even if you're not Texas, it's some sort of southern, like Miley's from, you know, Tennessee or anything south. They just like that style, I guess, or that type of person, or maybe it's more, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a different type of person.
Well, it's like, I mean, a lot of them, I mean, Miley obviously grew up with Billy Ray Cyrus as her dad, so she had obviously seen fame and stuff a little bit, but it was still like, you're not hiring these people who are like I'm gonna be famous and stuff. You know, it's not like, it's not to put down people who are on Vine, but it's not like those Vine kids who are like, I deserve to be famous because I said so.
I'm just saying it's very interesting how this industry is so small that we shoot our first movie and it happens to be Emily's brother is the star, and then a couple years later, I'm on a television show with her for 7 years.
People like
it's just
Southern
strange.
hospitality.
Those things are strange. And then our sister in that movie is now on Wizards of Waverly Place with Selena, and Selena and I shot Walker Texas Ranger when we were like 11. It's just weird how all these people all come together when we'd worked together previously before Disney. So I don't know. It's all very strange. And so did the Jonases. The Jonases are all from Texas.
Yeah.
All those, a lot. I don't know. It's interesting to me.
Well, isn't there like a saying, there's no jobs in Hollywood anymore? Well, it's because Mitchell Musso and Emily Osment and all of these child actors took them all.
Right? It's so weird how that works.
If you're gonna blame someone, you got to blame Disney. They're the ones who like people a lot, and it is really cool that they're like, hey, you were on this thing that we did a while back. Well, we really liked you on there, so come do this thing now. It's nice that they're just like, okay, thanks guys, goodbye forever. So it is cool. It definitely is cool. They're far worse giant conglomerations to work for.
Yeah. So let's see. What year was Life is Rough?
Life is Rough. I guess what? I was 11, so that was like 2000 and what? Like, gosh, 6, 2005, 4, 2004.
For Life is Rough?
Yeah. How long? I think I was.
It
I think I was 12.
It was 2005.
11 or 12.
I just Googled it.
Yeah, 2005. See, I was close.
So you filmed in 2004.
Yeah, we filmed in 2004, and then it came out in 2005. That, no, I would have never thought that it would come to where I am and where I stand with Disney today. I would have never thought that shooting that movie. Disney's such an awesome company. They're definitely the coolest people to work for. And I, genuinely believe that. I remember I just came off of Monster House, this movie Monster House, which was about this house that comes, to life, and these 3 kids take out the house.
Yeah, that also had a huge fan base.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's a big film, and it better be. It's it's a bunch of awesome actors and great production and an amazing writers and animators, and it was cutting edge technology at the time.
Yeah.
Polar Express was the only ones to do a full film in motion capture prior to that. That was the first. That was the very first horror for sure, but one of the first things that they put out, and I was a baby. And that's Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis. We're on the, Sony lot. And I don't really realize any of this. The only thing that I noticed at the time was we had just, me and my friend Sam, who plays DJ, or not DJ, plays Chowder. I played DJ. We had just seen Napoleon Dynamite. And we are on set rehearsing prior to filming in the wetsuits and the reflectors. So we basically rehearsed the whole movie before shooting it. And in walks John Heder. John Heder plays the pizza guy. Oh my God. Me and Sam took him to the ground because we were so excited. And you have no filter at that age. You see your favorite person, you run up to them. And the kids still do it today. If you're a fan of somebody, you run straight up to them with your cameras out. And you're like, I love you so much. Some of them cry. Some of them scream. Some of them, just want to be your friend. Some of them just want to act cool and just say, I'm one of the cool ones. And that's how we were. We literally jumped on John because we thought that was so cool. And my God, Steven Spielberg could have been in the corner like, hey, guys, come over here. And we would have been like, who is that? We don't get, we didn't care about anything other than what was going on in our worlds, which makes for, I'm sure, a good movie and good television and everything else when it's not about money. It's not about, fame, where you live, what you drive. It's all about just being a regular kid that people and kids can relate to, being relatable.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also what makes these shows and these types of films or whatever production it is so authentic, and good. And The new stuff, I'm assuming these kids just walk onto Disney because Disney was such at a high peak and still is and always will be. But once you're in that, spotlight and you have all this social media, because back then we didn't have phones, we didn't play online. We weren't on the Facebooks and the Instagrams, being told, oh my God, you're the coolest person every single day of your life. That'll get to a kid. For us, it was just, oh my God, Napoleon Dynamite's here. And what are we going to In-N-Out to go eat a burger tonight? That's all that we cared about.
That's true. I mean,
so it's just different with the shows these days.
Yeah, because even in that time, and you're right, it wasn't even, social media wasn't really a thing still, other than very early MySpace. But MySpace wasn't for fans at that point. It was just really for your
it was just
friends.
for your friends and to hook up with friends and make new friends. And sometimes your crush was on there, so you'd like them.
You didn't get that instant feedback that people do now. You didn't get hey, I just saw the episode and here's exactly what 10 billion people think about it.
Definitely. Our generation, we had cords on our phones. Even when we were filming the first season of Hannah Montana, it was still that kind of era. They just came out with the little Bluetooth
Bluetooth
headset,
was blowing up,
and that was a big deal, But yeah, I think that's what made those shows so authentic.
Absolutely. And as a child actor, or I guess as any child really, a big part of childhood in the United States for a lot of kids is thinking about or being lucky enough to go to Disney World or Disneyland. So had you been to one of the parks before you started working for Disney?
Absolutely, we had been. Our family had taken us prior to that. We have pictures when we were very.
I was too young to even remember it.
When we were little, Mark was a baby. He was, held walking through the parks. I vaguely remember being there. My favorite character was always Goofy, and I remember having my Goofy hat. In a Disney Mickey Mouse shirt, and everybody, is decked to the nine, your whole family with Mickey Mouse or some type of Disney wear. And it's interesting because I still get that feeling when I go to Disneyland or Disney World. It really is this magical place.
Yeah, and so as you went as just a guest before you started, working for Disney and going for other reasons, what were some of the experiences or attractions or rides that really stood out to you? What were some of your favorite parts?
I would say the Mickey Mouse waffles, going into that big cafe and being able to eat. For some reason, waffles aren't as interesting to kids as when you put three together and make it Mickey Mouse. That was just something that, it changed the waffle game for me at that time. And I would think that would be my favorite. And also, the first time you're riding rides, you're not tall enough to go to a Six Flags. You're riding the Teacups and Dumbo, and it's a small world. And everything looks, much bigger than it looks nowadays, when you're a kid. It looks big now, but back then it was this is a universe, But I would think that the food and also the characters walking around, because I remember we'd have to stop every couple seconds when I would see a character that I wanted to take a picture with Pluto or with Mickey or Minnie or I think that those were my favorite experiences at the parks.
Yeah, and actually to go back to the conversation about, new technology, is that they can't do that anymore. They can't just have characters roaming anymore, at least at Disney World, because of all the phones. Before you'd have, Goofy walk down the street and your mom with a disposable camera could take a picture of you. But now, because everyone has a phone, it became such a hazard to have everyone run up to these characters. So it's much more difficult to do things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a lot more of the buying the photos. We have the Disney printed. You ride Space Mountain and you get a print for, I don't even know what the prices were back then because
too much probably.
And I'm sure they were too much, but I'm sure they were have dropped significantly.
You know what though? At the time they probably weren't too much actually, because now whenever you see them put any price on a photo, you're like, why would I? Well,
nobody. I'm just saying that nobody buys those photos anymore because they have these phones, and I also think it kind of takes away from the whole magic of Disney or those kind of theme parks that you got before, because I could go on Twitter or Instagram and find some video of Peter Pan, hooking up with Tinkerbell behind the ride because somebody filmed it and it just ruined my whole park experience.
That's totally true.
You know what I mean? Back then, you didn't get that.
Or like videos of all these characters
You'll
taking
see
their
some
heads
YouTube
off.
and say, oh my gosh, Pluto at Disneyland drops bag of weed. He was smoking behind the, you know what I mean? Like people get in trouble at these parks and it's major news and every kid sees it.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because in the theme park creators, the circle of people I get things passed around to me, and just information of there was this and there was that, and that was spot on to something that I was recently told happened. So you're not wrong.
I'm sure, and I'm just coming up with that. I'm blowing smoke. There's a ton of stuff that could happen, and it's just interesting. You have all the information in the world at your fingertips these days, and back then, that was what it was. It was magical because you could just go off of these rumors or these stories. But now, I feel like a lot of that, how everything's right in front of you kind of ruins.
Well, yeah. What I was going to say is like one of my favorite things at the parks used to be the hidden Mickeys everywhere. I like just searching for them, being like, oh, where are the hidden Mickeys? And like you'd buy, they'd even have like a little book that kind of gave you hints on where to look.
Yeah.
Now you literally
definitely.
type in...
right, and you know exactly where everything is, and there's a photo of them.
Yeah,
there's a photo of every spot, so it just ruined all of that. The adventure behind it. The imagination of where the hunt, the thrill that I used to have, and I think that's all that the kids have now. That's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, along those lines, you now have also online all of the touring plans for the parks and how to do it. And I mean, I respect the people that put on those sites, but the message boards get a lot of different suggestions on what to do. And for a while, people were like, "Well, we're all gonna go on Christmas because everyone will be home with their families and it'll be fine." And then everyone on Christmas Day flooded the parks, and now it's this big joke is that everyone goes on Christmas and says, "Why is everybody here? I thought no one was supposed to be here. I thought that everyone should be home with their families."
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's always been that way. I can't imagine Disney during Christmas anytime in December wouldn't be extremely busy.
Well, especially since they theme everything to Christmas around Christmas time, everyone wants to go during that time.
And that's another thing that's why I still love to go, because it's incredibly done and everything is so clean and perfect, and it really puts you in another world. But when you take away the imagination part, like so and so got busted for doing this at the person who plays this character, it kind of ruins that for me.
Yeah. Well, it takes away the magic. That's kind of...
Which is why they cycle them out too a lot.
Of course.
I'm sure. But yeah, the tour guides is a very different experience.
Yeah, so let's go to After Life is Rough and Before Hannah Montana. So when you're, you get your Life is Rough contract, if I was in your position and I was about to, work for Disney as a child actor, I'd be like, look, I get a gold pass to the parks. I get to go whenever I want. I mean, do you get any perks as a kid to like go into the Disneyland or Disney World?
Yes, I mean, in a sense.
Well, you didn't get... It's not like they gave you free passes for life or anything like that. They didn't even give you an annual pass. They gave you like a certain amount of tickets per year. Or
yeah,
like
and it really... It's interesting how they do it, because you know how big Disney is, right? So I'm sure that's one thing that anybody who has some sort of even affiliation, nevertheless like a place at a Disney company would not want. Everybody wants free passes. Everybody wants to go. And so they would give us a certain amount every year. But if I were to call up Disney, I would say, hey, I would love to go. I used my passes. I'm sure they would do something about that. Now, during the time of my contract, no, I didn't really think like that. I didn't really put two and two together that Disney Channel and Disney at the theme park were the same thing or same people. It was just, they were different.
Right. And so after Life is Rough and now you're into Hannah Montana, if there was ever a place for all of your fans of this extremely popular TV show to be at one time, it would probably be Disneyland or Disney World. So if you wanted to go to a park and not for like a TV show or not for performing and you're just there just to have a day at the park, what was the procedure? How did you get in? Did you just go right in through the front gates and hope no one recognized you?
Well, Mark, I mean, we just kind of...
you couldn't... Yes and no, I guess, because like you couldn't walk right in because Disney. The reason why Disney gives like people who are famous tour guides is not because they're just like, well, we want to make sure that this person's happy. They give them tour guides so they don't cause a scene in their parks.
Right. That would be
block stuff and like mess up the entrances.
The main focus is nobody gets hurt.
Yeah,
and no kid gets trampled on because so and so's, from High School Musicals here, because back in that day it was a phenomenon. The High School Musicals, the Hannah Montana's, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, all of those shows and movies. When they had us at the park and these kids found out, I mean, they would break barriers.
Yeah, no,
to
it was
get
bad.
to them. They would do anything that they could.
They almost like destroyed half of Typhoon Lagoon.
Yeah,
trying to get to
and
people.
I think that was a big deal for them. So, as fun as it is to take a tour guide when you are that kind of person, and also not just Disney people, I'm sure massive stars.
Anyway,
everybody does this, but it's behind the scenes kind of an experience. So you're not actually in the park. There's a whole underworld to Disney. And so you travel on golf carts or a car and you get to the rides behind it and you just kind of go up the back entrances where nobody is.
Yeah, like how the employees
security escorts you. It's awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's incredible. But you do miss out on being in the park. Sometimes I would just want to go out there in the park and it was like, that was not okay, Right. So it completely changed to where we had to be behind the scenes.
It wasn't like Disney would get mad at people for doing it. It was just like, you can't do this because you're going to get trampled. Problems are going to happen. There's going to be exits that are blocked. There's just like stuff like that. That's like actually serious problems.
Right. Like, it was the only times that we really went out was either if we had a restaurant or something booked for dinner, or if we were performing. Some of us played concerts at Disneyland and Disney World, and so we would go into the park for that. Everything else was kind of behind, backstage, underground experience.
Yeah, and I honestly thought that I would be fine because I was like, no one knows who I am. This is gonna be great. You guys can do all that. I'm gonna go walk the parks for a second, and then like, it was me and Moises was another guy on Hannah Montana. It was me and his brother, Mateo. We were just like hanging out, and then someone recognized us somehow. I don't really know how. And they were like, hey, aren't you guys the brothers of those people? And then before we knew it, there was a crowd and there was security who had to escort us back to like the restaurant that everyone was eating at. And he was even like that. I was like, why is this happening? But I understand
because the kids knew back then. It wasn't like it was much cooler. Sure, you can just Google search anything these days, every search engine or platform on social media. But it was, the coolest thing that I can remember being a kid was knowing what other people didn't know, what wasn't like mainstream, if it was Disney or if it wasn't Disney, if it was. That was kind of like I would consider punk rock, not the like kind of not like musically punk rock, but it was what the kids, that's what you do as a kid. You got all the things that adults don't know,
the hidden Mickeys
the hidden stuff. The scoop. You got the scoop.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's why it was kind of a word of mouth. Oh, their brothers are here. Or, oh, the sisters here. Oh, did you hear that wasn't actually their real name? This is their real name or something. I don't know.
All the rumors surrounding any of it was always.
But
always
even
great.
the time, just living in that kind of time was magical. Mm-hmm. Not just being at the parks, but just the whole thing.
It was different. I mean, that's kind of what I mentioned to you on Twitter, Kevin. Is like just like weird things that I never thought I would see, but even at the age, I guess I hadn't been to Disney World enough or even fell in love with it enough to like appreciate but it was stuff like we got to ride Space Mountain with the lights on. And
yeah, that was interesting.
It made me so scared of Space Mountain ever since then.
Yes, thank you. I talk about this a lot, and I get made fun of, but Space Mountain is horrifying. Those bars are so close to you.
They're so close.
They are so close.
And like we were with tour guides, and they were like, "We've never done this before either." And then after we all rode it, we went. That was really cool, but those beams are really close. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go on there anymore.
Well, also, you think just because it's Disney and it's been there forever that it's immediately safe, but this was built in 1974. It hasn't received that many updates. Are we sure it's really that safe?
It is a great ride. That one and Rock and Roller Coaster were my two favorite rides. And when I heard the Hollywood Tower was going away,
For Guardians.
yeah, Guardians is awesome. That's great, but that's kind of sad.
Well, at least it's still in Disney World. But for me, now, Kevin, I know that you are kind of not so for putting Marvel rides in the parks, which I totally disagree with you about. But other than that, I just don't know why they didn't build a new ride. Why take away Tower of Terror? I don't understand.
Well, I'd like to point out that I'm fine with Marvel rides in the parks as long as they don't replace something awesome.
Sure, yeah. Well, it's like how they're building like Star Wars Land. And they had to take out a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, what? You have so much room. What are you doing?
Right.
I'll tell you what, too. Something that made it so different, even before the being on Disney Channel, why those parks were so awesome was because why I didn't associate Disney Channel once getting that with Disney, because you go there and you see, Mickey Mouse and you see Goofy. Nowadays, you couldn't go up there and go see Lizzie McGuire or Raven or even Stevens. That wasn't a thing. Now the parks here's a whole Phineas and Ferb world. Here's the High School Musical truck going by where they have everybody singing and they're the High School Musical band and they're dancing in the streets and stuff. It's not old Disney, it's not cartoon, which is why I was fine with the Phineas and Ferb stuff. But my God, if some kid's walking around playing me at Disney World as Oliver Oaken, playing that character, I wouldn't want to go see him. But that's me, it's just a little different than going and seeing this costumed Mickey Mouse, it's Mickey Mouse. It's literally Mickey Mouse. Because those kids are like, oh my God, Zac Efron's here. That is literally Troy from High School Musical. He's singing, and then they walk up and they're like, you're not Zac Efron. Who are you? You're wearing a wig, and it's just strange.
It's a fine line to walk between really cool costumes and like characters you never thought you'd see in real life, and someone wearing a Halloween costume.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a perfect example of this is actually the Guardians of the Galaxy ride in Disney California Adventure, because outside sometimes you have the baby Groot puppet, which is really cool, and you have the big walk-around Groot, and those look awesome, and then next to them you have this Chris Pratt knockoff Star-Lord, looking guy that isn't Chris Pratt, of course, and he looks horrible, and he's just kind of standing there for pictures. It doesn't look good.
See, you can't win with something that's live action. If it's the princesses, absolutely you can, because you get this beautiful girl who can dress up as this animated Sleeping Beauty, and my God, she really does look like Sleeping Beauty. Mm-hmm. But when you have, these actors that are your favorites and you watch them every day and it's not Chris Pratt, you're like, this isn't the person I want to see. No, honey, do you want to go take a picture with him? No, I don't want to. Who the is that? You don't want to take a picture with him because he's not Chris Pratt.
It feels like a Times Square kind
exactly.
I would think that also takes away a little bit. For me it would.
Oh, I would much rather see animatronics of Groot and Rocket Raccoon.
Oh, way cooler.
Yeah.
Way cooler. Even if they were puppets, that makes more sense.
Go for it. That sounds great, because you're not going to see those characters in real life.
Right.
If you really want to, you can go see
Backlot
at a premiere somewhere.
The backlot at Universal, you see Jaws. My God, it's Jaws. It's this animatronic that comes out of the water, and it's Jaws, So I think, I would think 2 kids as well, that takes away from it, unless you're just very young and you don't know the difference. So
And maybe that's who it's for. I mean, I guess there's an argument to be made that
sure,
could
I'm
be why
sure.
it's there.
I'm sure they do very well.
But okay, so I haven't ridden. Have you ridden the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, Kevin?
No, I have not. I'm closer to Disney World, but I am going to Anaheim this summer to ride it for the first time to give it my fair shot.
All right.
Disney World, the park that's worse than Disneyland. Got it.
Yeah, well, I didn't choose the location that I live based on which park, although I probably should have, considering what I do now. But
Although they do have Universal there,
Yeah, see,
which
that's
is
what
I
was gonna
think is
say.
better than ours.
oh yeah, the Universal
Yes.
for sure is way
Like,
better than the Hollywood one.
For sure,
Yeah,
you
because
know.
the one in Hollywood, you have to take 6 million escalators to get
Right,
there.
right.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Wizarding World of Harry Potter is really cool. Other than that, the park is okay.
Yeah, the Harry Potter world was awesome.
Even the Harry Potter world in Florida is way better. I mean, you even get to take the train between the two parks, which is just
Right,
awesome.
that is very cool, right.
Yeah, there's just the one park in California. But yeah, with in Disneyland, I was wondering, like, is there footage of Chris Pratt in the Guardians of the Galaxy ride?
Yes, and I talk about this a lot, but whenever you put celebrities as they are now into rides, especially in video form, you immediately put a date of expiration on that ride, because I mean it's weird to see them once they get old while they're still young. A good example of this is if you go to Universal in Florida, you'll go to see Men in Black Alien Attack, and at the very end, Will Smith from the 90s or early 2000s will come out and say, "Great shooting," and you're like, why is Will Smith? I mean, you've seen Will Smith in 1,000 movies since then. It's just so jarring to see
That's
him
very
so
strange.
young.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that's even weirder that you go from real Chris Pratt to literally directly outside of the ride as not Chris Pratt. And you're like, I just saw him.
Yeah,
5
that
seconds
and that
ago.
yeah, that doesn't make any. It's not like doing the Buzz Lightyear thing.
What I'm
You
saying
know,
is
you
we could obviously run Disney World better.
Yes,
than
us
Disney
three should
could.
run Disney World's management team. We would be amazing.
Honestly, I think that those are the few things too that I would take out.
Yeah, there's a
honestly,
few
I
things
just
that
take it out
on-
because it does. You're right. It puts a age on it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. I feel like that takes away.
What's the problem with Tomorrowland? I'm a big proponent of tearing Tomorrowland down to nothing and building it again. I don't like Tomorrowland.
Well, because tomorrow always comes.
yeah,
So.
it just feels weird. I'm like, this feels like the past already, and like it wasn't built that long ago.
Just
Yeah.
wait for the Tron ride. That'll reinvigorate that section of the park. We're getting a Tron ride in Florida. You know, Tron hasn't been out for years, but, you know, we're getting it, so...
They're just now doing that.
Yeah, it feels weird. Didn't they have a Flynn arcade when Tron Legacy came out? That was great.
Yep, then it won't even be out for a couple years, so we'll look forward to that. But I do have a couple other questions about your experiences in the parks. In case anyone does not know by now, if you haven't been, you know, viciously Googling everything Mitchell's done for the past 40 minutes, you also had a very healthy music career. So did you ever perform in the parks?
I did. Yeah, I performed at both. I've performed at both.
And on cruises.
And on the cruise, and on the Disney cruise. A couple times on the cruise too.
Well, let's start with the parks. What was it like? What was that experience? How did it work?
I guess it was very similar to any other stage performance, but you kind of walk out, you know, from the back. So you're in the back lot, and you have to physically walk out into the inside the theme park. You got to walk through it. So there's tons of fans, you know, mobbing you. So they kind of cover you with security, and then you walk up on the stage. I'm sure they have a different stage at this point where you can just kind of pop out from the ground, but at that time it wasn't like that. And it was very similar to say you go see the Star Wars show, you know, or when Michael Jackson's show, you know, that's in Anaheim. Is it still there?
I don't think
the Michael
so.
Jackson show?
Captain EO is no longer there.
Yeah. Well, that's what. Yeah, right. So it's similar to that. It's like you have the stage, and all the kids are there, and that I'm sure is cool for kids. Like I was saying, you know, back when I was young, if I would have gone up and gotten to see even Stevens or Ren or Beans, you know, for the at Disney, that would be cool. Let alone watching them perform. You know, music that I listen to. It's on the channel. It's in my ear every day. You know, it's something that I bought at the store, and you also get to see the person. So it was, they're both somewhat similar experiences. One area is much friggin' hotter than California, but that's pretty much the only difference between the two performances. And sound quality, not very good. You'd be surprised. It's not, an amphitheater. It's not, they don't have all these giant, just massive
because the stage
amps and everything else.
The stage you played at, was it a permanent stage or was it a temporary stage they put up?
I think that it was a permanent stage, but it wasn't a stage built for a rock venue or a rock concert.
It wasn't built for like music, more for like talking.
Right, right. Or a show.
Right. But like still, it wouldn't be necessarily for like it wasn't for like a concert.
Definitely not for a concert. So yeah, I mean, that was really the experience. And then you walk out, and some people, you'd either sign autographs for about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. Some kids paid more money. You could get like a VIP ticket. So you went and saw me back at their green rooms. You got to go backstage and see the back lot for a second and get to say hi, signing autographs. And then right afterwards, I would run back not into the park, but I'd go ride rides,
Yeah, and I forgot to ask this earlier, but they probably take you the back way onto the rides, like through the exit, right?
No, yeah, you're not standing in line.
Yeah, usually loading onto the exit, depending on what the ride is and how it works, but usually it's loading onto the exit.
It's really interesting too, because you have all the parents and the kids standing there waiting in line. They've waited for an hour in the hot sun, and they're standing there. It's finally their turn, and all the Disney kids come up and they hold the ride. The doors don't open for people to come out, and everybody loads onto the ride, and all the kids are like, oh my God, that's everyone from Disney, that's so-and-so from this show, that show. Oh my God, they're freaking out. They're taking pictures. And by the fourth time we come around, because they're like, once you're done with the ride, they're like, hey, do you guys want to go again? And we're like, yeah, we're kids. We want to go again. And then, by the fourth time this happens, the parents are fed up. They're like, are you serious? We've seen these kids drive around 4 times. We've been waiting to ride the ride, and the kids are still like, you're my favorite, and they're still screaming, excited.
Yeah, the parents.
So you would do this with all the other stars?
Oh, everybody's just. That was during the Disney Channel games. That was at Disney World, and I guess Disneyland too. I guess the both of them. We did them at both.
Yeah. Go back. I mean, there were definitely times in both parks where a lot of Disney Channel kids were there at the same time.
That was the massive, that was the big time, was when they did the DC games. And every show was there to compete and also just to do a bunch of promotion for all sorts of stuff for the channel. But we were all there together at Disney World for about a week. And a lot of it was filmed. Most of it was filmed. And then on days that we weren't filming, we could just go play at the park.
And not only is it every kid, but every kid has their own tour guide.
Right.
And all
every
the tour guides
kid
usually ride if who they're being a tour guide to is nice to let them ride. But.
Right. And at that time we stuck together. Yeah. Because that was like our, I don't know how to explain that. That was like our, middle school, our high school.
Right.
That was our, even though we weren't on the same show, we were around each other a lot, because Disney does a really good job with that, with kids on Disney Channel, is they put them together a lot of the time, which I think is good for one, just to be social with kids who are also in your situation, young actors on Disney. And yeah, I mean, we all were together. So when we'd load onto these rides, you'd see all your favorite person, you'd see some of the Hannah Montana cast, some of the Raven cast, some of the High School Musical cast, the Jonas Brothers were there, Allie and AJ are there. So it was a very interesting time. I mean, it was, nowadays I'm sure that's not a thing.
Yeah, well, I don't think they'd done DC games.
Well, they pulled the DC games after. We did it 2 years.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. This is I saw this online when I was researching. It's like the field day type activities they had all the Disney Channel stars do, right?
Yeah. Right, yes.
Were they fun? Did it feel like, oh, I'm going to work today? Or was this just like something really like fun to do with a bunch of people that you knew?
Oh, yeah. The games were planned. How we were hanging out was not planned. The promos were planned. You know, when we say, hey, watch the Disney Channel games in 20 different languages, yeah, there's a guy off the side telling us how to say it in Japanese and how to say it in, you know, whatever it is. So, yeah, but as far as this just being the camaraderie and the chemistry and just being kids, that's, not planned.
Well, also,
that's just fun.
Those things were, it definitely was not a cold day in Florida every time you did the DC games either.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. So there was a lot of makeup and hair as well off on the set. Is that what you mean?
No, I was saying that it definitely still was. It definitely still was work at the same time because I was able to sit in the shade.
I mean, it is a full production. Like I said, there's hair, there's makeup.
It was a long time. You guys did it for a long time. It wasn't like you just did one a day and you're like, okay, cool. Now we can go play the parks. Like you guys.
No, it was for hours on end every day. Yeah, sure.
But still, as fun as like a field day would be, where it's like it's super hot, but you're like, I don't care really because I'm in a bounce house. So
some of the kids would get annoyed with how long you'd be there. Yeah, it'd be hot, but for the majority of it, it's different than being inside a soundstage. You know, you're inside a soundstage every day of your life shooting this show. So you're at Disney World with all the Disney kids playing games. That was one of my favorite experiences working with the channel.
Well, Disney
was the DC games for sure.
Disney famously does not like to have drama, which is a really good thing. So like they do a really good job of making sure that all the kids are friends and they, you know, everyone like likes each other and there's not like drama going on. That way, whenever you are all together, you're like, oh, this is cool. So my friends here.
Right. Maybe for egos and stuff. Yeah, I think it is important to do that.
They're really not about any bad blood between people, which is a really cool thing because I'm sure most companies would probably just not care at all. So
they definitely care for their kids for sure.
Yeah, well, when you said like all the kids would get on at the same time, I was picturing more of you be like on Rock and Roller Coaster and you just be sitting there and some person would turn around and be like, "Are you Mitchell Musso?" And then boom, it would like launch you from 0 to 60. That's how I pictured it. But everyone going at the same time is so much funnier and more interesting.
I can't even tell you that's happened before as well. I mean, we've wanted to go to the parks before and not have a tour guide, and while we were working and they were like, you guys are not allowed to go to the Disney parks without your tour guide. Well, what do you think we want to do now? You know, because you're telling these kids that they can't do this, so we're gonna go do it, you know. And that was what was punk about living, you know, just being a kid. You just had a different type of energy to you. Nowadays, you know, being 26, if Disney tells me not to do something, I'm like, absolutely not. I will not do that. You know, but back then it was like, you know, don't do this. And it was like, well, I'm definitely going to do that.
What do you adults know?
Yeah, you know.
Getting out of here.
What was the relationship between, you know, the adult producers and the kids? Was it just kind of a mutual understanding, like, yes, we know you're kids, just please don't do this? Or was it like they were like, no, this is business? I mean, what was that relationship?
Nothing we were doing was, you know, obscene or you know, hurtful to people or the environment or anything. You know, it was just wholesome kid fun. And definitely the adults were very good about respecting. They gave the kids so much respect, which also made us grow up kind of fast, you know, because we're talking to adults all day, very much on the same ground, no matter what they say behind our backs, you know, when we're not there, you know, when the kids are around. I don't think I ever even heard a cuss word on set, like ever. Literally ever.
Yeah. Again, they're very good.
And
the DC Games was live as well. So for most of it, you have a lot of kids around.
Yeah, but I'm just talking in general.
Well, yeah.
Just for the games at the parks, you know, on set. Those are the kind of people that they hire, you know. And that also, I mean, it makes you feel like one of the adults, you know, so you don't act out as much as most kids do, I'm sure. Yeah. Because they give you that respect and they give you that privacy. And, you know, your parents are living it up. You know, their kids on Disney, so they're not, you know, they're paying attention, but it's a little different than your kid getting a phone call from their teacher at school saying your kid was acted out today and went home and got a spanking or got grounded from his iPad for 3 days. You know, it was just it was different.
Yeah. Well, Disney has the benefit of most people who work there. Well, most people in the world want to work for Disney anyway. So once people are there,
they're a great company.
Happy,
They're a great company, yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you also performed on the Disney Cruise Line. You were also there. I mean, so in the parks they could kind of hide you. You know, they could take you through the utilidors. They can sneak you around in different places. But on the cruise, I mean, you're with everyone always. How did that work?
No, yeah, and it wasn't. It wasn't. It was very much, if you go on this cruise at this specific time, some of your favorite Disney Channel stars will be on the cruise. It was very much like that, you know?
Yeah.
And there were specific times during the cruise that we had autograph signings or a show. You know, if you wanted to see the show, it was on Wednesday night at the top deck. Come one, come all.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That
it
was
wasn't
the
like they were
interesting
hiding
thing, yeah.
us.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, come on, guys. It's cool. And no extra payment.
So what did you do during the day?
Yeah, I mean, what did we do? We just walked. We basically.
Well, I mean, it was either the first or the second one, but one of the two, my girlfriend's dad was working as Mitchell's sound engineer for the concert, so she was there. So me and her were doing our own thing. So I don't really know what was going on.
I remember that.
But so that was great for me because I was like, oh, this is awesome. We get to be on a cruise, and I'm like, I don't know, 15 at the time,
Yeah.
or 14, and I'm like, I have my girlfriend here. We're just gonna hang out on this cruise like we own it, but.
Yeah, I didn't see you
fun.
much that cruise.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I separated.
I mean, what did you do, Mitchell? I mean, you couldn't just walk around. So
You know what? Yeah, not really. You know, I think that one of the worst ideas you can do is put an 18-year-old Disney star on a cruise ship with his own suite. Yeah, you know, and not to mention it's illegal. It is legal to drink in the Bahamas at 18.
Yeah.
So not a very smart move on their part. But it's, you know, at the same time, some of the kids don't get down like that. You know, I was a very curious kid. So I, you know, don't want to say I was like a big partier, but I was having fun on that cruise ship, you know. And there were two separate times, and that was the second time. The first time I was a little bit younger, so it was a different. And I was hanging out with what? We just walked around the deck. We got food. We stayed up late as can be. You know, some of the Disney kids are there, so you're hanging out with them. And I don't know. My experience was very different than the first time, my second experience, especially with some of these kids who they stopped doing the DC games. Some of these kids kind of, we weren't as close. Does that make sense? So I had my best friend come with me, and we were together the whole time, just me and my best friend. Because prior to that, doing anything with Disney, it was with the Disney kids. You know what I mean? We were all together as a collective. But I don't know. Something happened at one point with Disney, and I don't know. Weren't as close.
I mean, back then
What'd
it was such a family channel. Everyone knew, like I said earlier, everyone knew what it was.
Oh, you can feel it. You know,
Yeah.
I felt it getting different as soon as Wizards started, and then the Sunny with a Chance started, and everything changed.
Well, because before that you had, you had So Weird and shows like that.
Yeah.
And you would never see anything like that on Disney Channel today.
Yeah,
Because that show was
for
kind
sure.
of scary and like had weird things going on. And it would come out on like 2 a.m. at one point. You just like see this weird horror show on the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Not really the case anymore. And also, I mean, I'd like to just chalk it up to like being older and not like watching Disney Channel anymore and being like, well, I'm sure there's still super big shows that I don't know about, but I don't like see the merchandise in stores or anything.
No, I
so-
legit don't know either.
Yeah, so I don't.
You know,
think
that
so.
is not me being an ass. Like I literally do not know those shows, and it went beyond the park stuff, the DC games. I remember at one point, you know, we were 3 seasons in of Hannah, and they were like, "Hey, Mitchell, there's this part that you can play where you dress up in this rooster suit." It was called Hatching Pete, and they're like, you dressed up as this, and you're going to be in Utah for a month and a half filming, and it's this part, and you'd be great at it. And, you know, it was starring me and then also another Disney kid. That was the kind of stuff they used to do. They'd put us together with a kid on another show who I watch, and that kind of kept us as a family in a weird way. You know, once those original DCOMs, they called them, kind of stopped and the new shows came out, everything just felt different.
I think they still technically happen, but I haven't heard of one for a long
I haven't
time.
heard of a decom because that was a big thing back when I was watching Disney Channel too.
Yeah. You
When
had
Sweet
Smart
Life was out,
House.
and I thought those
You had
were
the really depressing one, True Colors, with Shia LaBeouf actually, and Ren, who plays his sister in Even Stevens. It was them too, and it was like the first and only decom drama.
Dude, I remember the Cheetah Girls. That kind of stuff was, it was exciting to watch on Disney.
Cheetah Girls and High School Musical.
High School Musical, I mean, massive,
Yeah, I mean it's huge. It's
Gosh.
crazy how big that was. I mean you have 2 Disney Channel movies that were made for TV for this kids network, and the third one goes in theaters and crushes it at the box office. I mean, when is that going to happen again?
In theaters. Right.
Yeah, no, it would not happen.
And same with Hannah. They did the same thing. Hannah did like season after season, people loving the show, and then way later they're like, hey, let's put a movie in theaters, and my goodness, it did fantastic.
I do not see a Dog with a Blog movie coming to theaters.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, but still.
But the funny thing is their cartoons have a total chance of being theater movies. That's like what they're closest to now. It's
Yeah,
like,
that would make more sense if they did a animated.
We need that Phineas and Ferb movie with a strong Jeremy subplot, right?
Yeah, for real, right? They were working. I love those that whole group of people, and the Dan and Swampy. They are so much fun to work with, and when the stories, a lot about Jeremy, and also the new Milo stuff. When it's a lot about my character, and I get to just hang out there. Man, that's some of my favorite work. I would love to do a feature film on either one of them.
And that is such a clever show. I mean, that is just a fantastic. Adults love that show. I mean, I love that show. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, brilliant people working on that.
It still has that wholesome feel, like we talk about. There's something that's just so organic about that show.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I have one more question, and it's very specific, so hopefully you have an answer to it. But what would be the craziest or most bizarre, or I guess best experience that you've had while in the parks?
I can give you mine.
I was gonna say, I feel like you would remember.
So it was Miley's birthday,
Right.
and her birthday was going to take place at the Magic Kingdom
Right.
after it was closed. So it closed, and it was, I mean, I would say there's probably a lot of people there, probably hundreds of people, but when it's only like 300 people in Magic Kingdom.
I remember that was so bad.
It's completely empty, and all the lights are still on, all the rides are still on, and you're like, I've never seen this place empty before.
Right.
And it's a little scary. An empty theme park's always a little kind of creepy, but it's also like, this is the most magical thing I've ever seen.
It was.
There's no one here.
Insane. I mean, you'd walk into like a certain area of the park, and there was nobody. Literally nobody.
And yet people still manning the rides. Like, you want to ride?
Right.
All by yourself?
No lines for sure. I mean, there's definitely no lines. You could jump on Pirates over and over and over again, and there was nobody there. That was really cool. I mean, they
can't
shut
imagine
that park
how
down.
terrifying that must be.
It was terrifying.
That's what I'm saying. It is a little.
We were so adventurous at that time. It was like, who can go the furthest in the dark? Like running from.
It would be like you're riding Pirates and no one's riding with you.
And that was so cool. If someone did it, we'd all wait there for him to come back to see if he would come back, and like that was a really cool time.
And then my final question would be to both of you is, what is your favorite Disney attraction? And I guess I should ask, is Disney your favorite of the theme parks? Do you prefer Universal? Do you prefer another theme park over it, or is it Disney?
I have a complicated answer to this. I think that Disney World and Disneyland are like the best theme parks that have ever existed, and probably will for a long time, if not ever. And they're like just. There's a certain magic to them that's amazing. A lot of it has to do with the animatronics, and less screens is always a plus for me. But if Universal does the Nintendo World they're planning on to the same degree that they've done Harry Potter, probably going to have to go to Universal for the rest of my life. So I'm a really big Nintendo fan. So if that happens, then
I would think if they did, if they have another smash hit like Harry Potter, I mean that would. I'm sure they're by no means like have a problem, but I mean it would save them like It would be the new Disney.
Well, right, because they don't have a problem, but honestly, once Disney opens the Star Wars land,
Yeah, and then
they're going to have a little bit of a problem.
And then that's the deal, is that they're about to do that. So Disney's always just one ahead, and they are the original, when it comes to the theme park / the happiest place on earth, man. It's the best place to be.
It's a good slogan.
I would pick Disney World, Disneyland over any of them any day.
Yeah, I'd still pick Disneyland, but I don't like California Adventure very much. But I'd still pick Disneyland. I like Disneyland more than the Magic Kingdom, and I like Hollywood Studios, I guess.
I do too. I like Disneyland for sure over Magic Kingdom.
But I don't really care about Animal Kingdom or Epcot that much. So.
Ooh, see, I like Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
Everest is great. I love Everest.
I like Everest for sure, yeah. That's great.
Yeah, that's the one ride we rode over and over again until we got sick and stopped.
Yeah. Oh, we definitely got sick too.
Yeah.
Yeah. and this has nothing to do with being biased about Disney in any way. Even if there was no treatment and it was never that way, I've always felt that way.
Oh, yeah.
As a kid, you want to go to Disney. And it's always that same feeling of magic. And really, it fills that spot in your heart.
Well, yeah,
you wanted to fill.
I'm moving back to California soon, and I don't get any special treatment at all for Disney or anything like that. And still, when I'm going there, my girlfriend's like, "Can we go to Disneyland and not Universal?"
Yeah, I mean nowadays,
yes.
that was years ago. I have been to Disney World and Disneyland without tour guides.
Oh yeah.
I've gone, and it's still the best place to go. It's my favorite place.
It's the cleanest park. I mean, they have that rule of like how they don't sell gum in their park and stuff like that. And it's like, it's small things like that where you go into a theme park and there's no gum on the ground. It feels like you're really in like a different universe. Where you're like, how is this possible? How is this park so clean with all these people here?
Yeah, that's true. It is a wonderful place.
So back to the question: what is your favorite Disney ride?
Clearly, it's the Bugs Life show.
yeah.
It's tough to be a bug. I always thought that, and the show just proved it.
It's so ridiculous.
You know what? I don't even know if I think it's that good, but I'm just such a big Roger Rabbit fan that I think I'm gonna have to go with Roger Rabbit and Disneyland. I just love Toontown, and it always makes me sad when I'm in Disney World and there's no Toontown. So. Even though it's definitely like a little spot for little kids, I still get a kick out of the Roger Rabbit ride. Just like how some people love the Alice in Wonderland ride because they love Alice in Wonderland. And when I'm riding it, I'm like, okay, this is fine, I guess. But I'm going to go with Roger Rabbit, even though it's not the most thrilling thing in the world. I enjoy it.
But it's tough because I think my favorite ride is Rock and Roller Coaster.
I'm right there with you.
My favorite spot is staying at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, going on the balcony and seeing all the animals. So that's my favorite spot to be. Yeah. And then the castle. I would think that is the coolest looking. And then all the fireworks go off. And it's the most magical feeling in the world.
Good answers all around. Well, Mark, Mitchell, thank you so much for being here today and giving me so much of your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
And thank you to everyone that is listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Thank you for visiting Defunctland.